Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Athan Hristodulu, joined alongside, as always, by Matt Colpitts here, reviewing another edition of Monday Night Raw. With a lot going on, a lot of things developing quickly. Backlash is literally not this weekend, but the following weekend. Very, very quick turnaround, just 3 weeks between WrestleMania and the Backlash show. So, Matt, today we're talking, of course, some of the things that unfolded last night, and we'll land first with Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. This is something that you and I have kind of gone back and forth a little bit about, so I'm excited to see that Lyra's going to get the opportunity, and we saw a little bit of it last night with her establishing a character. I feel like the biggest issue I've had with Lyra, not her in-ring work. She does a great job there. It's just, I need a reason to invest in her. And it's great that she has the championship and WWE's clearly behind her, but she needed something to take her to that next level. And here comes Becky Lynch providing that opportunity to strap that rocket onto her and maybe propel her up to a higher position in the company. So powering through what, Chance? I was a little bit worried as she was talking. She held her own against Becky Lynch. How do you feel about this angle that we're getting between the two?
Yeah, man, I think you took the words right out of my mouth because I love this program, actually. I realized watching Raw last night, I don't really watch NXT. I think this might be the first time I've ever heard Lyra's voice, which is pretty crazy. She is, as you said, incredible in the ring, but I also needed something to kind of buy into this. I never really understood her character. You could even tell doing the entrance, the whole like woo thing that they do felt kind of forced. Like nothing was really clicking with her character. So I think this is actually perfect. I think Becky, has kind of already done it all in the industry. The only thing that has eluded her so far is this new championship, the Intercontinental Championship. So it makes sense for her to pursue this, all the while elevating Lyra. So I think it's going to be great. I love that Lyra is actually getting a program, a chance to show what she can do on the mic and go toe to toe with, a top star. Many consider to be the top women's star of all time. Controversial, subject to opinion, but that is what a lot of people deem. So I'm excited for this program and I'm buying into it.
So I have a question for you here because this is the one thing that I'm struggling with right now, and I'm genuinely concerned about how WWE is going to grapple with this. The character with Lyra right now, again, planting seeds, we need a little bit more to really kind of figure out where she's going to be as a person in the ring, but it felt kind of just like, I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to prove to you type of deal. So with Becky Lynch now as her opponent in this situation here, she comes out, she admits to being the one who attacked Bayley. All the heel tendencies you could ask for from her, going at the crowd, like everything. But yet, even while in between a few of the things that she said, the crowd's still cheering for her. I have and believe me, I'm excited to see a heel Becky Lynch. I think she can do great work as a heel, but it is going to be difficult to turn her heel. How do you think WWE does that? Because that is the one thing that I'm struggling with the most right now is giving me a reason, knowing that Becky Lynch is doing what she's doing at this stage in her career to elevate talent, to make the IC title important. Those are nice things. Those are things that make me like Becky Lynch more, not hate her more, despite what they're trying to do here.
So I see 2 points to make with this problem. Point number one, I think with the situation at hand, it's inevitable because, again, Becky is who she is. But I think the solution being that Bayley is still involved in this. And Bayley's pretty loved, once in a while, maybe she'll get booed. Every wrestler gets booed inevitably in their career. But I think the whole idea is like, you just got to accept this. Because my second point is that's how heels are now in WWE. Look at Seth Rollins when he came out at the beginning of Raw. You would think that maybe, it might be a little bit more of a mixed crowd reaction, some boos. I don't think I heard a single boo. Man. All I heard was cheering, people singing along to his song, cheering. And if anything, when Sami Zayn came out, it almost seemed like the crowd was kind of turning on him as a face a little bit. And they were cheering everything that Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman were putting out. So I think that is just the state of WWE. You kind of accept that heels get cheered. So I think it's inevitable that Becky's getting cheered in this feud. But to go back to my first point, I think if anyone's going to maybe help turn the crowd on her, it's going to be Bayley. I don't think Lyra has that pull. This is a program for her to establish herself and put herself on the map. She's not there yet. The fans are not going to pick her over Becky. But once Bayley gets involved, whether it's an interference at Backlash or however it goes down, I see that maybe being okay, now we got 2 4 horsewomen going together. those that have stuck by Bayley's side since the beginning might finally start, booing Becky, and that's kind of the only solution I really see to this issue.
That's actually a really good point, and something we even floated around in the offices earlier today was just like, maybe Bayley gets involved down the line with this rivalry, however it kind of plays itself out, being that Lyra has a connection to the both of them, and maybe it turns into something that like ends in a IC triple threat down the road where you allow Lyra to maybe go over these two legends in their own rights, I would say, at this stages in their careers. So we'll have to see how it goes. Next thing on the docket we got to get into here, Logan Paul coming out and basically saying, I want a world championship, and he's targeting Jey. They continue to make Jey look like the underdog, even as a champion here, because you have to think Logan, who has no world championships and has yet to be able to capture one despite opportunities he's had. Now he's going after someone that he thinks he can take down, in a Jey Uso. How are you feeling about this one here? This is one of those things where I did not expect this. This kind of came out of left field for me, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet, but I am intrigued by the idea of how they're going to handle a Logan Paul who I really don't know how the WWE universe feels about him. However you feel about him outside of WWE is one thing. I enjoy his character work, and I also enjoy his in-ring work, surprisingly enough, but I don't know how this one plays out. It feels like an obvious win for Jey, or could we potentially, are they going to cut his reign that short to a guy like Logan Paul? I can't buy that.
Yeah, so first off, I actually saw, I don't know where people get their information, if there's an insider or what, but I actually did scroll upon this on Twitter, and I saw that this was rumored. People are already building this as kind of like those dream backlash cards. And
really?
Everybody was running with the idea of Logan Paul and Jey Uso, and I had no idea where it was coming from. Mm-hmm. But now that I've seen it happen last night on Raw, and now I see if you kind of paint or connect all the pieces of the puzzle, I think it makes sense. And the reason being, you just had Logan Paul go over AJ Styles, a legend in his own right, at WrestleMania. Jey Uso wins the title. You already have this kind of mixed reactions with Jey. At the end of the day, he's still getting the incredible crowd pops and whatnot. But with all the internet drama, he's kind of getting that mixed reaction. Who do you put against to try to get the fans behind Jey Uso early in his title reign? Someone that is hated.
All right.
Logan Paul. That is why I think it just makes sense to have this feud. Logan's coming off a huge WrestleMania win. Where does he go from here? Might as well give him a program with the world champion. It just, even though on paper you're like, why? I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So I do think that it would be crazy if Logan actually comes out of this the winner. But I do see why they're going with the program, and I could buy into it. I do think it'll be a fun match. It's a different style for Jey. He's been fighting the slower guys like Gunther and bigger guys. So it'll be cool to see him against a high flyer like Logan. But once I pieced those puzzle pieces together, I was like, okay, I see the vision.
Yeah, this is one of those, I'm assuming the match will be fun. I don't necessarily, I use the word fun because as far as a technical wrestling match, I don't really know. But as far as a fun, enjoyable match, I'm sure it'll be good. Logan, like I said, every time I say it, I can't believe I'm saying it, but he does a good job in the ring. Jey Uso, with his style of offense as well, I think could blend really well with what Logan Paul does. So it's just one of those things that, to your point, I wasn't even seeing the rumor mill online even point to this. And just for them to all of a sudden, Logan Paul comes out and just bang, he's calling out Jey Uso. Yes, the points make sense. Both of them coming off big wins off of WrestleMania. It's been a while since Logan Paul had a big championship match that wasn't for the United States Championship or something along those lines. So I can see the vision. It's just one of those things that I was not expecting. So I guess I just kind of have to see how it plays out. But I'm in the camp of okay, maybe this is to just generate heat on Logan Paul and give some more fanfare to Jey Uso, with fans being kind of 50-50 on how they feel about him holding the title at this moment here. I don't really see how Jey comes out of this program losing, other than just for the shock factor kind of thing. And I could only imagine the heat generated if Logan Paul comes out as a world champion this quickly into Jey Uso's reign. The other thing that I did not know I wanted, and honestly, as it was first initially kind of starting, as it happened on Raw, I was kind of like, oh no, don't tell me this is the angle we're going with. But Pat McAfee versus Gunther at Backlash. I did not want this, even as I first started listening to Pat McAfee start to speak. But as he continued to get across his point of his support for Michael Cole, the love that they have for each other, how much Michael Cole has given him since he's joined the WWE as a team on the commentary table, I started to see where they were coming from, And I really like the direction. We have basically a friend defending another friend that can't defend themselves against a big bad bully. And I see the vision here. For me, there needs to be one outcome from this, though, and this is where my worry about this ends up coming up, is if Gunther does not come back from this indefinite suspension, which I'm assuming, based off reports, it sounded like he wanted some time off after Mania. I'm assuming we don't see him again until either the Raw before or just we'll see him again at Backlash. He needs to come out and just demolish Pat McAfee. This match cannot be close for Gunther's sake and for the story's sake. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I want this to be 5 minutes max.
Yeah,
max, if even. Maybe it's like a Sheamus and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania.
Five minutes if Gunther's just toying with this food kind of thing.
Yes. Maybe it's like a Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. It's over in like 12 seconds or however long that match was. I don't really buy into this, but I will say I do think Pat McAfee is just entertaining. At the end of the day, he's, ESPN's golden boy. Now he's becoming WWE's golden boy. He is just money wherever he goes. And I do think he did sell this feud with the promo last night. With that being said, though, one thing that disconnected from me from Pat McAfee, like, as a wrestler was whichever Royal Rumble it was 2 or 3 years ago where, like, he entered, he steps up into the ropes. I think it was, like, Omos, like, in the ring.
Yeah, there's a bunch of right guys. Brock Lesnar might have been in there, too.
Ever since then, I've been rubbed the wrong way. I was like, he's not taking this seriously. He's not. That's one thing I can give respect to Logan Paul is that he does actually take, as a celebrity, he takes the art of wrestling seriously. He's actually dedicating time and whatnot. Pat McAfee just can't do that. He's got way too many commitments. He's got his own Pat McAfee show. I'm not trying to be a propaganda guy for Pat McAfee here and promote everything, but you know how much he does.
Yeah.
I just want Gunther to really reestablish himself, become a monster. Or again, he's been a monster, but it's time to, after a loss at Mania, reestablish himself. In fact, 2 straight losses, because he also lost to Sami Zayn the year before. It's time that he just goes on a rampage. I want like a Mark Henry, like Hall of Pain type of run from Gunther, where he's just absolutely, relentless. So, yeah, I see why they're going this route. I think it's better than almost like the Damian Priest route where he just kind of gets lost into like a mid-card feud. It's nice that Gunther's going to have this like seeming directive where he goes crazy and like on a rampage. So I see the vision, but I completely agree. Squash match, please.
Yeah, I feel like if this goes any other way besides Gunther just laying into Pat McAfee and sending a message to everybody that like... okay, I lost at WrestleMania, but I'm back type of deal. Like, that's the only direction that this can go. Because if Pat McAfee's putting up a fight with Gunther, after some of the complaints I had with him kind of... it felt like, I don't want to say not taking the previous matches leading up to WrestleMania seriously, but clearly getting caught off by some of his opponents, the way they were kind of playing the whole story out. I need Gunther back, whooping McAfee. And like you said, if it's 5 minutes at most, it's him just toying with McAfee to get the point across that, like, I am who I am and you all need to respect me type of deal. And I think it's also they did a good job of, like, segueing Gunther away from Jey to allow for Jey to do some other stuff before their eventual... I'm assuming they're going to have to meet face-to-face again at some point. Like, we can't just leave Jey and Gunther at that. So this was a nice way to kind of get Gunther away from Jey Uso and allow him to reestablish himself that way. So I again, something I did not want, and even as I first started to see it unfold, I didn't want, but then after listening to McAfee, credit to him, he did a great job selling me on it. Finally, though, we got to talk about it. It started the night with an offer from Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, basically telling Seth Rollins he's hypocritical for all the stuff that he had against the Bloodline and Roman Reigns and what he needed to stop against CM Punk and all this, yada, 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 the future. And to Sami Zayn's point, fair. I honestly think so. I mean, Seth Rollins is well established at this point. The future going through him doesn't really make sense. Like, Seth Rollins has been around the block now for the better part of nearly 15 years. Like, this isn't like a new guy up and coming type thing. And, Bron Breakker is obviously his case in point. I have the future here with me type of deal. But this had a lot of layers to it. Sami Zayn being basically offered safety. You're my friend. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to kind of deal. Telling him, we'll get you sent to SmackDown. And then later on, Paul Heyman even offering him a guaranteed, undisputed WWE Championship match if he takes the offer and goes to SmackDown. Obviously giving a lot for Sami Zayn to think about. And of course, the ultimate no at the end. He ends up having to face Bron Breakker and getting demolished. At this point now, I think we have a clear vision of what's going on here. Seth Rollins, the manipulative type of guy that he is, he has Paul Heyman in his back pocket. I like the open and upfront upfront use of Paul Heyman as a guy that can pull strings in the back, because it was something that was like alluded to when he was with Roman, but not really in your face. The fact that we're now throwing it in our faces and seeing it firsthand. Heyman can literally get you a championship match whenever he wants. I love that aspect of the faction. Breakker is obviously the muscle and probably the guy that ends up being the split between Seth and Paul whenever that happens down the road. Sami Zayn being the, I guess, victim, the first victim, I think it is perfect. Sami Zayn's the perfect babyface for this. He is the guy that he'll never take an offer like this. It was never something that I even considered, even with the championship offer put his way. My only question is this like the feud that we're going to get going into Backlash? Like, I was assuming that Seth Rollins would probably be thrusted in some sort of championship picture immediately and using that faction to his advantage that way. But instead, we just have him, I guess, slow playing, planting seeds. Like, where are we going here?
Yeah, I mean, I love your breakdown of it, and I think to continue off of what you have already said, I want to focus on Rollins and I want to focus on Zayn in this scenario because first off with Zayn, I feel like that's a quicker point. Something's brewing, and I know you say he's a great babyface, and I completely agree. I would love to see him win the inevitable title as a babyface, and I love that he had that promo last night to kind of plant the seeds and remind people that like that is still his ultimate goal, to win the title. It's a reminder that he's not going to just try to retire as a mid-carder, never winning the big one. That feels kind of like a Kofi Kingston kind of build, like he's going to win it finally. It's going to be a one reign. It's going to be feel good coming later in his career. I like that foreshadowing. But something, and maybe it was coincidental and it wasn't supposed to happen that way, but last week when he was doing the celebration with Jey Uso, he came back and there was like a moment where he kind of planted his feet. Jey was up on the turnbuckle, and you almost thought he was going to hit like a haluva kick or something and turn on Jey. And the crowd was even starting to cheer a little bit. They're like, here comes the turn. And then nothing happened. And then now for him to be kind of thrust into this with this new heel group, it's all mysterious. A lot of signs are like, maybe are they trying to do a whole angle where like Zayn is going to be put in a situation almost like the Bloodline where he got initiated into the group. Is he going to like end up joining Seth Rollins after all? Is that where they're going with this? I don't know. But maybe it is just as simple as, you know, he's the first babyface to kind of fall victim, and that's that. Now to Seth Rollins, I think going into the night, I was scared. I actually didn't like the opening to Raw because it gave me vibes of The Rock when he came back and kind of ruined the build. It was the first Raw on Netflix, and he was just like completely destroying kayfabe. He was like, I'm a face, like welcome to Raw, woohoo, Las Vegas, like just promoting everything as a businessman. That's kind of what Seth Rollins was doing in a sense. Like he wasn't really acting like a heel. He did have some of his egotistical ways, kind of reminiscent of like his Messiah gimmick, being like so into himself. But he was still kind of catering to the crowd and, you know, catering to Sami. Maybe it was all a brainwash or a manipulation because at the end we did see finally some heel tactics from Seth Rollins. But that was my initial feelings at the start of Raw. And by the end, I loved it. I loved that he just, you know, stomped in Zayn after already getting 4 out of 5
with
spears.
The loafers. Wearing the loafers.
And the $14,000 jacket. I saw that was expensive.
Yeah, expensive curb stomp.
Yes, an expensive curb stomp. So I like it. I like the slow build, the mystery of like who's gonna be a member, who's joining. I know last week we discussed the possibility of like Becky joining. Like who's gonna join this faction? What's the goal? Is it just for Rollins to have Rollins and Heyman? I mean, Heyman's already a Hall of Famer. Is it for Rollins to win a title and kind of boost his ego? Is it to boost the future and they're gonna strap up Braun? We'll see. But yeah, there was a lot to take away, and I do like, after seeing how Raw played out, how this is going so far.
Yeah, I feel like the big question that is just, and maybe it's a good thing, and this is me just wanting the answers now and not wanting to be patient, because this is definitely more of a slow burn story where I want to see results now. Like I want to see where this relationship with Paul Heyman's going for Seth Rollins, because it was just something that came so out of left field in the build up to WrestleMania and then ultimately what we got at the show itself. But I feel like you made a really good point, because I had that similar feeling at the start of Raw where we went through that first segment and I was like, this feels kind of slow for what we got last week. And I'm a little bit worried about it because, like you said, Seth didn't feel like a heel. But now that you've laid that out the way you did, and after speaking this out loud a little bit more with you, I think it's classic Seth Rollins, manipulative, kind of not allowing you to really understand what he's doing, because again, he's supposed to be a bad guy now. He got Paul Heyman to turn with him at WrestleMania, but here he is preaching about how he's for the company, for the future. He's doing a really good job of working the crowd, and clearly maybe even you and I. So At this point, it's one of those slow burn things, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the end result here. And maybe it's just me being impatient. But I do have one quick question before we wrap, and be quick on this one. Does this faction need a name, or should they just keep doing what they're doing? Because people are talking about what the name should be. Give you like 20 seconds. Thoughts?
Don't know what name it will be. I think they need it. At the end of the day, heel factions are just killer. Evolution, Judgment Day, you name it. I want to see a name. I don't have a name put as for what it will be, but yes, they need a name.
Yeah, I saw somebody pitch Revolution as like a callback to Evolution. I don't like that. I want its own name, but we'll have to see what they turn into. But that is it for me and Matt. As always, if you made it to the end, greatly appreciate it. We'll see you all next week for another edition of Ringside Review.